Well, you can adjust all that.
It is now 10 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen. Let's call the meeting to order. We have those of you that have cell phones, please put them on silence. We have the minutes of the May 6th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes as mailed?
Second.
Okay. Discussion. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. We have the discussion
Abstain.
and approval of the claims.
I move on the claims.
Second.
All right, Mr. Van Bergen.
James Van Bruggen, Taxpayers Research Council, 516 Nebraska Street. I have a question about one claim in this week's. It's from juvenile detention. It's out of the Emergency Services Fund. It's for $499.88 to Shopko, and it looks like they bought a lot of different clothes. I asked for some information prior to this meeting and found out that an agency named Family Solutions out of Orange City, so Sioux County, had requested for some assistance. So I'm curious why we're providing assistance to an agency based in Sioux County.
I did talk to the director over there, and this was a family that their house burned down. I think it was in Sioux City, and that money was used out of their emergency funds for that particular purpose. I think there were several youngsters involved, and Family Solutions do work down here in the Sioux City School District in the various schools and helping various families.
Were other agencies like the Red Cross or Goodwill contacted?
Well, I don't know. I know that there are other resources in the community that can assist in those areas. But when a request is made, then the director has the alternative or the authority to either have them investigate other sources or whatever. And he probably did that. I can't tell you that for sure, but I do know that's how that situation works. But this agency, plus several others, as you know, are in the Woodbury County area, and they do work in the district here and work with various families in the community. So that's the answer that I received anyway from juvenile detention.
I do have one further question. During the budget process, oftentimes I've asked questions about what line items are actually being spent on, and this line item is always discussed as if you have to haul a juvenile to an emergency room or a doctor's visit, or they need some emergency medical drugs. So it's hard for me to imagine that buying clothes out of this fund is the proper way of doing things. I would have thought that general relief would have been a more prudent place to actually draw funds from for this type.
Well, not always, because they have different qualifications too. And I do know that those funds are used for a variety of different reasons, depending on the situations of the parents and also of the youngsters involved. They are used for some of the things that you just described, but they also are used for things that we may not describe, such as clothing items, because we do have youngsters, particularly in the wintertime and sometimes in the summer, but particularly in the winter, where these youngsters show up to school, they don't have coats, they don't have proper shoes, they don't have proper clothes, and the workers, wherever they come from, whether it's DHS or TSI or this organization that you just described here, will request assistance, from juvenile probation or juvenile detention center for help. They do, I know, investigate other sources in the community. General assistance normally help folks with their rents, with rental assistance, with turning back on their utilities, things of that sort. I work in that situation just about every day with families that require that kind of help.
Should the board have some type of policy to make sure we're reaching out to all of the agencies in the community for these types of situations before we draw on the tax funds in case that you do need more funds for juveniles?
Well, I don't know if we have a written policy, but I do know that the director of Mark Olson over there has had many years of experience. Before he was even director of the Juvenile Detention Center, he did work in programs where he did exactly the same thing in providing help for families that he counseled in the community, and that goes back to the early 1980s. I can remember Mark working in the various agencies. And so I would think, I do know that he is familiar with all of the various agencies in the community.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, item number 2 is discussion of the claims. Did we have a motion on those? And a second. Okay, those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Human Resources, we have the memorandum of personnel transactions, and I'll pass those around for signatures. Any concerns or questions on that?
Move it. Second.
Okay. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. We have the Treasurer's Report, approval of the resolution to abate taxes for City of Danbury, partial 8642271777001.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion. Those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. We have item B, which is the approval of resolution abating taxes for City of Danbury on partial 8624227177002.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion. Those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, we have item number 5, and this is a request by the Moville Record. They've changed their name. They're requesting that they say a main paper for this board. Is there any concern about that or a motion, ladies and gentlemen?
Move it.
Second.
I think all they've done is just change their name. Discussion? Those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. We have the item 6, which is the planning and zoning. John?
I'm on my way.
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning. Morning.
The Anderson family has approached Woodbury County for a 5-lot subdivision about 3.5 miles northeast of Lawton on the north side of 120th Street. One of those lots currently has a single-family dwelling. The 2 other frontage lots are for planned family residential development. The back 2 lots will remain in agricultural production. That's approximately 26 of the 40 acres. There's also on one of the lots, there's about 4 acres of timber. So a good share of this is staying in agricultural development. CSR on the property average is about 63, slightly above our policy standard. But the fact that we got about 30 acres remaining in timber or in row crop production seems to mitigate that.
Okay.
We had a couple issues come up in the public hearing, which was held latter part of April. Changes to the plat, which were made, easement agreements have been executed, and the paving agreement has been signed. Those will be recorded after final plat recording. Questions?
Move it. I'll second it.
Second. Any further discussion? Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Do you want these maps back?
I will take anything
Okay.
you want to hand this way.
Anything?
Well, paperwork. See it.
Thank you. Item number 7,
Good morning.
Mark Nair, you're not.
Mark's on leave today,
I've
so I
been.
asked that I stand in for him.
All right.
Ben.
We have 3 items today. The first is to consider approval of the completion certificate for project LB 09 Parent 2, and that is a bridge replacement project on Lennox Avenue with a 90-inch CMP. Very nice looking project.
Move it. Second.
Okay, discussion. Those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Second item is consider acceptance of the final work. Have the chair sign for FM CO 97 Parent 18-55. That's a farm to market project. On D51 from Luton to 75, that's the project we received the state award for.
Okay.
Move it.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Discussion. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
And lastly, we have the contract and bond with Midwest Coatings for the longitudinal joint repair on D25, that's old 141, and they will be getting on Monday. Should take about 4 or 5 days to complete that work.
Okay.
Move it.
Second.
Okay. Discussion.
Yeah.
Those in favor of the motion?
I do.
Yes, go ahead.
141, what, you just gonna
Old-
be, get old 141, you're
Yeah,
just gonna
from
fix the joints?
approximately Holly Springs to Smithland.
Okay.
in that area. There's a center line joint that's coming in.
Oh, the one that's-
Quite safe-
okay.
Safety issue. on it.
Gotcha.
Okay. Those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay. Anything else?
Nope, anything for Mark to take back to him for next week that you have concerns or questions?
Had a car roll over last Friday out there, I hear, on 235.
I have not seen a police report on that, so.
Was not a local, it was not a local person.
On 141?
No, 235,
Okay.
CF.
Oh, okay. I had not, I was not aware of that. So usually we will get a police report on that. What was the condition, you know? what we call
I don't know, I just got a call.
Okay. I know they're continuing to finish up their work out there, placing the extra gravel. And I think this week they'll be done with most of that work and see if they're in pretty good shape. When I was out there yesterday, except for a little bit of rain there to the top or smearing.
Okay.
Right?
All right, thank you,
Thanks,
Ben.
Ben.
Appreciate it. So our next item, discussion and decision on the courthouse security adoption plan. We basically have two plans, I believe the sheriff's plan and also the supervisor's plan. There's been a lot of information out on that, on both these plans. I would like for us to hear if there's any further information on either one of these plans. And I'd like to have the sheriff come up if there's any additional information you'd like to present on your plan, Sheriff. Additional things that might help us with it.
Sorry, Sheriff.
We did get your memo and your plan that you sent out to us last week or the week before.
You know, I think the only thing that I may add to that is that maybe what Mr. Gill will talk about is that the training is already budgeted by the sheriff and his administration, and you guys have placed certain dollar amounts in training. So that's some of the savings. And then the other concern I would have on the plan that you folks have brought up is the liability concern, and if you've spoke with your insurance carrier about going to another, basically a private or away from the sheriff's office, because I think there would be some issues there that maybe you haven't looked into or thought about. Because under the sheriff, you know, we have that liability issue taken care of, and now you're gonna add another one. So I think that those would be some concerns. Just from looking at it, I'm not gonna keep going over it. I think our plan is the one that is probably the most effective, and really, that's about all I have to offer. You've had a chance to dissect that.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Pat, you had your information in the agenda material for the board to peruse. Do you have any additional information?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Karen is.
It's in there. I haven't had a chance to bring it up yet.
Where's it at? Which one is it? I can't see.
Can never see that far.
Let me see what that slideshow.
Yeah. Go down,
Straight down.
up, right there. No, down,
Right there.
yeah, but it's not doing anything. There you go.
Thank you, I appreciate the opportunity. After the meeting that we had last week, and the board chose to table that decision, and I thought that was the right thing to do. After I had a brief discussion with Mr. Clausen on Wednesday, the day after, we had a discussion about cost, and that kind of spurred me on to doing a comparison, gathering my own information about it. And, so that's what I did. And then on Thursday, we had an I asked for a meeting, and Mr. Boykin and Mrs. Smith and Dennis Butler attended, along with the sheriff and a couple of folks from his department, and Gloria from Human Resources Department. So we went through, and that was the start of the process to gather some information for this. And what I did in the meantime is I contacted Blackhawk County. That's what the supervisor's plan was relied a lot on. And so I talked to Grant Veter, who's a good friend of mine. He's the Blackhawk County auditor. And he explained to me he was on the security committee when it first started in 1998. Blackhawk County contracts for services. They have a private security firm that they contract with. And those folks are unarmed in the courthouse, and that's kind of concerned me. But their fiscal year costs for 13 were $91,238. That's what it costs for a security firm to do it for them. The fiscal year cost for 14 so far are $73,000. The currently hourly rate is $15.77. That's what a private security firm charges the county an hourly basis for each person that is in the courthouse. The sheriff provides court security, and that's where I think there was a lot of confusion going on here. The court security, as you folks termed it, is different from courthouse security. The sheriff provides it in Blackhawk County to the court rooms. They have 5, I think, deputies that are assigned to different courtrooms. They're not there all the time, but when they're needed, they have sworn officers that provide security in the court system. This is their schedule. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. They have a guard 1 at 7:30, 7:45, 2 guards from 7:45 to 10, 3 guards 10 to 2, 2 guards 2 to 5, 1 guard 5 to 15. So there are 23 billable hours to the county on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Okay. On Tuesday, apparently that has something to do with the juries, but they have more hours there. The third person is there. So it's 26 billable hours on Tuesday to the county over there. So Blackhawk, the annual cost is, comes up to 118 hours per week, and it's 52.2. Now the figure is 2,088 hours, and that's what we use when we budget a full-time person. When Gene prepares that every year through payroll for full-time people. It's so it's 52.2, and so that's according to the schedule that they keep. There are posted hours that they keep. There's 6,159.6 hours of coverage. Times that 1577 is $97,000. So I just did that in order to prove up what they told me what they'd spent last year and what they're doing, and this would be based on that. So those figures are pretty close. Okay. When I did the comparison, I made an assumption on several things. I wasn't concerned with the ancillary costs. You budget $250,000, but what I was looking at when I put together this story, or this study, this portion of it, was that I was looking at just what it cost Blackhawk County to man theirs and what it would be similar, and looking at trying to get the minimum cost that it would cost Woodbury County in order to staff it similar to Blackhawk, because that's what folks were using. Both plans, in the meeting on Thursday, it was established that both plans don't intend, their intent is not to undercut any bargaining unit that is currently in place. That was agreed by the supervisors, agreed by the sheriff. And the unit cost is, the assumption is $19.98 per hour for non-supervisory personnel based upon entry-level court security officer, including FICA and IPERS. That's what they used. That's a person, the court security person from the contract that is currently in place in Woodbury County. That's what it costs the county on a hourly basis. And that includes a family plan, is that right, Gene?
That does not.
Oh, this one does not include benefits. That's right, okay. The other, more assumptions are 2,088 hours for the sheriff's plan, because the sheriff wants to put a deputy sergeant in place to man the doors. And that cost is $91,661 for a deputy sergeant to do that, based on the contract. For the supervisor sponsored plan, 2,088 hours, it's $78,646. The difference being is that first one is a deputy, the second one is a court security officer. And those are based on the plan, the contract that is currently in place in Woodbury County. Now, I want to comment on that is that our office wasn't asked to supply any numbers during this process, which I was mystified by, because our office, Jean, prepares the budget for payroll for the entire county every year. She does a great job of doing it. And we do it in conjunction with working with human resources for contract compliance. Okay? Everything we do, we were not asked to during this process. So that's why we're coming up with these figures now. So I used 6,159.6 hours based on the 16 years of experience in Blackhawk County. That's what they use to provide security at their doorway, unarmed security at their doorway, based on that schedule that we went over already. The assumptions for comparison is that the training costs are covered in the sheriff's plan. We talked about that during our meeting on Thursday. There might be some more costs involved in that, but the sheriff, I'll just leave that alone, but the sheriff that was agreed to on that meeting on Thursday. The next assumption was I didn't use the sheriff's plan because he wants to use the reserves due to a board policy. I can't use that because you have a board policy now that's in place. It would take action by you folks to rescind that in order for him to use reserves, because you say that in your policy that we looked at says that they can only be compensated for 1 hour. That's in here, but that's what I had to use. So we couldn't use the sheriff's plan for the hourly people, but we did use, because they want a sergeant deputy in there, we did use that. So you take both plans have to have a supervisory person in there, and that's we took the 2,088 away from that, so there are 4,071 hours left that have to be covered by non-supervisory personnel. And that cost is $81,350. That's based on that figure of $19 an hour. And the annual cost of the deputy sergeant is $91,000. This is the sheriff's plan. So the total cost of the sheriff's plan is $173,1157. And the concern we have there is because in order for those figures to work, is we're assuming something that doesn't occur now, is that you have a deputy sergeant that would be overseeing. We got 2 bargaining units we're dealing with, is because the other figure I used is the civilian officers, court security. And that doesn't occur now, so something's going to have to give there. That would have to be bargained for, but that I look at as being the minimum cost of what the sheriff's plan would cost. Okay? And based on those hours, to go back to talk about, when we talk about the sheriff's plan, my understanding is it actually was that work group put together, and the plan that comes out, and the sheriff's plan actually asked for another person, but that wasn't really the sheriff's plan projections. That is that work group came up with, and that was based on having an additional person as a floater. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right. So that person isn't actually manning the door. That's a floater. So that's an additional person that is in the sheriff's plan if you look at that, the other costs that we're talking about. Okay. Now this is the supervisor-sponsored
Is
plan.
that in, Pat,
Sure.
is that in your plan, the floater? Did you remove a person from the sheriff? I mean, maybe you want me to wait to the end, but is the float, for
No,
clarification, is the floater?
Yeah, to clarify, what I said is that, yes, I did it the minimum hours based on what the sheriff's plan,
So
what he wants.
so you removed
Right,
a person from the sheriff's plan?
Right.
Okay. I
didn't
just
remove a
clarified,
person.
that's the way I looked at it, but I wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that that's what you
you
did.
can say it that way, but what I looked at was the minimum cost, the sheriff's plan versus the supervisor's
Right,
plan.
but you
for
changed
folks
the
out
sheriff's
front.
plan.
Yes, I
Okay.
did, and I
Okay,
changed
I'm
yours too.
done.
And I changed yours too.
I know you did.
And so we went to the supervisor's plan, and this is the minimum cost that you can, I believe that you can get away with for the supervisor's plan, and still honor the collective bargaining agreement. Because we take out we come up with the same amount of non-supervisory personnel, same hours, same cost for that, but your court security sergeant is $78,000. For a total cost of the supervisor plan is $160,000. Okay? And the difference being is that from those, just the supervisor person is $13,000. But training is not included in the supervisor plan. Okay? And the things to consider are the cost, power to arrest and weapons. That was something, when the judge talked last week, that's what really spurred me to take a look at this too. Because he was talking about the difference in cost being the power to arrest and weapons. My concern was when I heard that there might not be that in the supervisor plan. I think that's what your intent is. I still don't have that answer. I asked for that, but I still don't have that answer. But I think that the supervisor intended to do it, but there isn't I haven't been apprised of any plan how you're going to do that, to have people on to do the power of arrest and weapons in the supervisor plan. The experience and expertise, training, liability, and future expansion. Those are things that I considered. And now just to comment, when Judge Hoffmeyer made his comments, I was very concerned because it sounded like possibility would be that these folks out here wouldn't be armed. That concerns me greatly. And I can look at this, I try to do this objectively, put together and look at the cost of just manning that out front. But I also wanted the consideration is, we're on the first floor. I have 15 people that work in my 2 offices on the first floor, and that's what I'm concerned about, security. And my preference, I'm going to tell you right now, is that those folks that are out there, that they are armed. That's something that I just want to make sure that's my bias, is I think those folks should be armed out there. Both plans, there's additional liability. Well, the sheriff's plan is more costly, but there's not much when training is considered. There's not training I have not seen training in that first plan that was considered. When Mr. Butler did his comparison, he adds training back in. And we get to the same thing is that the overall, the same amount of money is spent, according to the analysis that Mr. Butler put together, because you're both spending the $250,000. So there isn't any cost savings to the taxpayer. It's $250,000 that you budget, it's $250,000 that you spend. Okay. I'm concerned about the liability for the supervisor. Gloria, in our meeting yesterday, you talked about, you contacted a liability insurance carrier. Did you get anything on that?
No, I haven't had that.
Okay. So that question still needs to be answered. when both plans will cost more when the supervisor person isn't on duty. You're gonna pay a full-time supervisor under either plan. That's, we'll talk about the collective bargaining agreement, but when you put in a plan, you use a court security officer as your lead person. The lead person is a supervisor person, and you have to budget for that. That's why when we talk about contract compliance, that's what occurs, is you have to pay a supervisor. You can't just put people out there and pay them $17 an hour from that contract. That's where that figure came from, in your plan. It came from the contract with the CWA. Okay. You have to have a supervisor out there. Overall, same amount of money is spent. That's what, we had this big discussion last week that there was a savings. There isn't a savings to the taxpayer. You budget $250,000, both spend $250,000. That's on Mr. Butler's analysis. Privatize, that's an option. Both sides didn't think that was a good idea, but I had a gentleman come in from a private security firm on Friday say that they can do it, and they want to do it, and they want to be part of the discussion. And February of last year, apparently, they submitted a price to the county. I wasn't aware of that, but that's what they told us. And he said he could do it for a little over $100,000. Power to arrest and weapons to consider that. Sheriff personnel have the power to arrest, training, expertise, and certification. I still don't know how that's going to come with the supervisors, and their plan is the one that is accepted. I still haven't received an answer on that question. Experience and expertise. Sheriff's personnel have actual experience in law enforcement and security. Every person that said anything to me about this said, that's a no-brainer. The supervisor plan depends on experience, applicants, and development of a training plan. That's where the experience and expertise, that's a big question that is not answered. Training, the sheriff's personnel have experienced trainers in law enforcement and security. Once again, the supervisor plan is not answered. Liability, the sheriff's personnel offers less risk because of their training and experience. We've all been deposed. When an attorney asks us, if something would occur, and the question is asked is, if you went with the supervisor's plan, they're going to say, no, you could have done it with the sheriff. Why did you decide to do it with the under the supervisors or human resources? And the answer that I heard last week was to save money. That's probably not going to be a good answer at that point. And the liability, the HR director is open to personal liability under this. The county is still, it's their duty to protect your folks, but the HR director is the one that he'll be named in a suit if something occurs. The sheriff's plan, this future expansion, that still wasn't clear to me other than that the sheriff's plan is, because the expansion that you talked about was going to other buildings. And the sheriff plan, why he puts the floater in there, my understanding is because that's what was asked for upstairs, but it also allows them, if the sheriff's plan is accepted, their plan is for the current court security officer that wanders between the three buildings is to be employed just at the other building, the other two buildings. My recommendation, and that's my bias, and that's because I am accountable to the employees in my office and the people on the first floor, and myself. I come through those doors every day. And if something's occurring on the first floor, Grant Veter told me about just when I talked to him that morning, he said that a person walked in with a box cutter right ahead of him, and opened my eyes to it. That is that that can occur right at that point. And when you don't have armed officers there There's a letter from Chad McCormick talking about that too, is that they don't believe that's a good plan. They haven't had an incident in the 16 years that they've done it in Waterloo, but we haven't had an incident either in 16 years. But it could happen, and that's what the discussion has been about. So clearly my recommendation, what I would like to see happen is that the sheriff is put in charge of it and that we proceed, because I'm like everyone else here. I don't want to see it fail. The majority of the workers in my 2 offices, it wasn't a scientific poll, but the majority of them don't even want security in here. They said they don't think it's necessary, and they hate to see that it's going to occur here. And that's kind of my feeling, but as soon as I say it's not necessary, something's going to happen, and I'm going to feel pretty low about it. So that's my presentation, so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, concerns from the board?
No, very good.
Okay, thank you.
One, it's not a question. I don't agree with a lot of your figures, Pat. And you have changed the proposal of Mrs. Smith. You've changed the proposal of the sheriff. So what I'm taking this as is a third proposal. Is that correct?
No, I don't think so. I disagree, Larry. Because what I'm looking at.
You cut from 4 people to 3 people on one, and you take a supervisory position, and I do not know what you use for dollars to come up with that salary.
I use what's in the county's contract right now. That's what it is.
For a
If you
sergeant,
asked us-
for a sergeant, you're correct. That is correct.
Right. If you asked, if we would have been asked, these are the dollars that we would have provided to you.
Okay,
Well, like I say, I just,
Now, I didn't change any of
And
the
I
plan.
do
What I
agree
came
with
up with
that.
was the minimum. And those dollars, a collective bargaining agreement, Larry, is something I have experience with.
I have some
grew up-
myself. Pat.
Yes, and I grew up in a collective bargaining agreement. But as soon as you put out that figure, you said, these folks said, you don't want to undercut the bargaining agreement.
That's correct.
But then, where do you come up with a figure of $15 an hour?
That was from the sheriff.
The sheriff, with the reserve plan, is my understanding, if there's somebody here from the union, I'd like to hear from them, but they said that to use reserves, that their collective bargaining agreement is okay with that. They
Well-
don't have an issue with the
well,
sheriff's plan. They have an
again,
issue with your
yeah.
plan.
We discussed all those issues in the work group, and we discussed it here. That's still debatable, Pat, and those are issues that will be worked out, whichever plan is selected.
Okay, thank you, appreciate the opportunity.
I have a question, Pat. Does all this fit the union contract? What fits and what doesn't?
What fits is that you have to have an acting sergeant under either plan. You have to have a supervisory person in the plan. And this is something that I spent over an hour with the human resources director, and he agrees with what I put together as far as what it's going to cost you contractually to do this.
Did you
Okay.
look at the ASME contract?
Pardon?
At the ASME bargaining unit, if it should happen to be, if they should want the job, did you?
Well, I
look
think,
at
a lot of this
I mean,
discussion
I
is kind of
just-
premature because we haven't selected a plan yet.
Right.
And whatever plan is going to be selected, those details will be worked through with those groups that are concerned right now. We don't know what plan is going to, at this point, that's going to be selected.
But what is the responsible thing to do is to put together the numbers under what.
Absolutely.
before we do that.
And we've
And
done
that's
that.
what we did.
Yeah, and that's what
We
you've
were-
done, and that's what we've done.
Yeah, but you don't comply with the contract.
Okay, that's your opinion.
It's your human resources director.
No, it's not. That's your opinion.
No, it's not. I hate to put him on the spot, but it is.
CWA contract is here to require supervisor's wage if it was.
Right, and we do have that included in our plan.
No, you do
No, you
not.
do not.
We have a supervisor for the part-time employees that would be hired under our plan.
You mean the HR director?
Let's, go through our plan.
Excuse me, Dave?
You mean the HR director is the supervisor, according to your plan?
He can be, or we can select someone else.
I disagree with that.
Okay, well, that's fine. That's fine. Let's go through our plan and go through the highlights, and then we'll open it up for discussion on ours. So let's do that. We would have, Jackie, do you want to go ahead and do it?
Well,
And
I
I'll
mean,
step in or whatever.
basically, there is a little bit of a change from the last week, and that is increasing an FTE by a halftime position in order to cover breaks and lunches. So actually, I suppose Plan A is a little bit more expensive based on that than it was, but it is one full-time team leader, estimated to be around $58,000, and if that needs to be reviewed and looked at, it can be. 2 part-time security personnel, but once again, think about this as it may also be from a pool of law enforcement retired or retired veterans perhaps too, and it would fill 2 FTEs, just another way to look at it. According to my numbers, and I guess you can do a lot of different things with numbers, but there is a significant amount of savings. I believe in my plan. I continue to believe that. I guess that hasn't really changed. I appreciate the time and effort that the auditor did spend on that, but he did change both plans to get them even. So I guess I would be willing to expand anything else, but there isn't just a lot of different information, and a lot of it, in my opinion, would be worked out after we decided
Which plan is selected?
selected a plan. I mean, it's like anything else. You just surround yourself with people that have the expertise that guide you through. An engineer helps you with your roads. Social services, you have people there that are the experts, and there have been several people that have come forth already that want to help us, and they are trained law enforcement officers and have worked in the field for a very long time.
Well, just to add to that, the law enforcement folks that would be hired either by our plan or the sheriff's plan are going to be the same, because we're not going to hire just some lay people off the street to do the security. Those individuals that would be under our plan, supervisor's plan, would be former law enforcement individuals that would either have certification to carry a gun or could be recertified to carry a gun. That was one of the concerns that was brought up by Mr. Gill and also the sheriff. Would these individuals be able to carry guns within the courthouse? I say they will, because they can be certified or have been certified already, and that has to be reinstated each and every year, I imagine, for each one of those individuals that we hire, which would fall under the same circumstance if it was under the sheriff's plan. As far as arrest authority is concerned, if those individuals are carrying guns, which they would be, they would have power to detain. And under Iowa Code 804-9 and 804-10, a private citizen can arrest. Under 804-10, they also have the to arrest with force by a private citizen. So they do have that authority under that authority. If we had a third plan in hiring an outside agency, that private agency would also have the authority to arrest under those same circumstances. So there is that possibility and reality under both plans. Under liability, the liability is going to be the same. The liability, whether it's under the sheriff or under the Board of Supervisors, the buck stops with us if there is an incident with the Sheriff's Department or with the Auditor's Department or with the Treasurer's Department. If there is a suit brought against this county for whatever reason, we have the responsibility of protecting and defending the public under those circumstances. We have the legal responsibility of doing that. So I don't see if the liability is going to be increased or not increased. If something happens and suit is brought against the county for any reason whatsoever, we have the responsibility to defend this county and the taxpayer. I think that under the board's proposal, there is additional breakout of additional expenses such as for chair lifts, for the cameras. There was a question about training. We would insist that anyone that's under the employee of the county would have to go through some type of training. These individuals would not be any different than that. They would have to be, and we would seek that training out for those individuals. So there is not much difference between the plans, except the economy of measure when it comes to who's going to run the plan. So we'll open it for discussion.
Well, I'll make a comment.
Ed?
I'll make a comment before,
Okay.
hold on. You're talking about that private security company. I know who you're talking about. I didn't have the power of the arrest when I worked for them. I had the power to detain. I couldn't arrest nobody when I worked for them.
Okay, well,
So I'm just letting you know, I'm gonna clear you up on that. You
I
can't
don't know who you
arrest.
work for, and I don't know what security company, because there's several in the community.
Well, I know which one we got it from, so I know who we're
Several.
talking about.
Okay. Ed?
All I wanted to add was just a little comment about the private security firm. If you do use a private security firm, they're telling us that the hourly rate, including all training, all uniforms, everything, issues about break time, about anything like that, would be approximately $22, not $22.50. You're talking about less than $140,000 a year for the number of hours of Mr. Gill's proposal. So that's, I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that. You know, as far as the proposal that I can see, it depends on which contract they're under as to whether they have to pay as far as the supervisor pay. It did appear from when we talked with Mr. Gill yesterday, it did appear that a supervisor would have to be paid, somebody would have to be paid that higher hourly rate than supervisory rate. Basically, when there's more than 2 people on it. So I think hopefully that helps give some clarity.
All right, all right.
Things that we happy to try to answer those as well. We're happy to work with any of you, however you guys decide.
All right, thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Discussion, board, recommendation. Oh, Mike?
Mr. Chairman, Mike Peters, City, Supervisors City. Two things. Two things. One is, most of you know I've been like you, a politician for a long time, and a citizen of Sioux City, and a proud member of this labor movement in Sioux City, Iowa. One thing I want you to understand is private never works. It's never cheaper after the first or second year. As an example, years ago, we decided as a state to privatize our cleaning of our rest areas. They were going to save us $1 million a year. After 3 years, it cost us $1 million more. We lost state employees. That's not a good thing. Secondly, the training. I would assume that the ladies and gentlemen on this board agree with me when I say our sheriff's department is probably one of the best in the state. They do an excellent job. They were under Glenn Parrott. They are under Dave Drew. And if they're going to be trained, I'd really like to see these people trained under that department. So I would hope you'd go with the sheriff's department. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
I'm Todd Trobo, I'm the president of the Woodbury County Sheriff's Office Association. There's a few things I disagree with your guys' proposal on Jackie's plan. One, if you've noticed, there's a National Center for State Courts recommendation on courthouse security. It's a step-by-step plan on how to institute courthouse security, just revised January 13th. Jackie's plan doesn't cover this, okay? There's step-by-steps. You would think you would go through this, and one thing is an emergency plan. If you have private security out there, they're not access to our radios, so if something goes bad in there, they're gonna be handling it themselves. With the sheriff's plan, they'll have our access to our radio communications. Whatever deputies are in the office, wherever else, will immediately know that there's a problem in there. Okay, second of all, the private security, they don't have powers of arrest. They have powers to detain as a civilian. Okay, they don't have powers to arrest. They can detain them until a deputy or certified peace officer comes in and determines if there's probable cause to make that arrest. So now we're still including the sheriff's office plan. Okay, as far as training, who's going to train the private security? Okay, is it going to be the sheriff's office or somebody else? Because they're a law enforcement officer doesn't mean they can come in here and be a private courthouse security guard. You still need training. Okay, in this plan they talk about emergency plans, training, all that stuff, and this plan does not address that. Okay, the sheriff's office through the reserves, they're trained every week. Okay, they have powers of arrest. They're certified as law enforcement officers through the reserves. It's really no brainer not to use the sheriff's office compared to private security. They do have powers of arrest. They have immediate access if something goes wrong with our communication center. They can call and say, I need help in the courthouse. Anybody, any deputy in the office or wherever else can run right over instead of private security having to get on the phone and say, I need help, and call 911 or whatever they're going to do, because they're not going to have access to our radio system. So it's immediate. One of the plans in here is immediate response. In the courthouse security, if something goes bad, you need an immediate response. Otherwise, the longer it takes, the more people die. Another problem is, obviously, even if they get in, we don't have a gun issue. You have family disturbances, just like the one the other day on I-29 where the husband and wife fight. You have divorces in here, you have child custody things. If something goes bad, even though they don't have a weapon, they start fighting. Is our retired law enforcement guys going to go in and have to fight this guy with no powers of arrest? Or are you going to call a deputy sheriff to do it? We don't have bailiffs in there protecting every courthouse as it's going on. You need people that have the powers to arrest to make that decision right then and there, not somebody to detain them. Last issue, under our CWA contract, it talks about court security officers. Our whole section in there is on court security, what they get paid. If they're a supervisor, under our contract, they're ready to be paid as a supervisor under court security. So you can't hire somebody else under court security and not pay the supervisor's wages under our collective bargaining agreement. Yeah, that's basically all I have to say. You guys have any questions for me?
I don't.
Is there a difference in court security and courthouse security?
Yes, there is. We already have one court security officer walking through here. It's bargained in our contract. We sent you guys a letter. The union sent you guys a letter saying.
I thought that person was a courtroom security person.
He's a court security person.
Right.
Okay.
Not a courthouse security.
So you guys want to change the wording a little bit to get out from under the contract.
No.
We've already sent you a letter saying we're open to bargaining with it.
That letter's been responded to.
Okay, no, it hasn't. I've never received a response to it.
And I would talk to your business agent.
I just talked to her yesterday.
To
Okay.
respond to your.
Well, she's been responded to by our attorney.
Okay, that letter was sent 2 weeks ago?
Yes, it was.
Okay, when did you guys respond?
Our attorney responded last week to her. If she didn't advise you of that, then
Okay.
I can't, there's
Well, I'm
nothing I
just
can
telling
do
you,
about
there's a
that.
lot of flaws in you guys' plans. We hope to stay out of arbitration. That's why we sent you that letter, because we believe, and my attorneys believe, that you guys are wrong if you guys are gonna try to get out from under the contract. We will be in arbitration if that's the way you guys go.
We don't intend that. Thank you, Mr. Troba. Any other comments by the board? It's a pleasure.
I'd like to make a quick comment. I sit on that committee, and as I stated in that committee, and I believe it's one of the concerns that everybody has expressed, if they aren't armed security personnel, whoever they are, I'm kind of like Pat Gill. They shouldn't be here. What's the purpose? It sounds though, what's troubling to me is that we pitted the board against the sheriff's department. That shouldn't be the case. We all want the same thing, to protect the employees. My feelings are, we've established the relationship with the sheriff's department. We know their personnel, we know what their duties are, we know how they're gonna act. Why go outside of that? Yes, we could probably get competent people to come in and do the same job. But we've already got a relationship established. Why change that? Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, once again, I do think we're going to have the same people at the front door. I have received, I'm glad we had this week. I've had, honestly, phone calls. People have stopped me on the street. And I agree, they questioned, first off, why are we doing security? They said, do you really have to do it? And I believe everyone, or most everyone, understands the world that we live in and that it is a necessary thing to do. The second response is, please don't tie up any more of our tax dollars than you have to in this. If you're going to arm the people at the front door, you're going to give them training, then that we want you to be as frugal as you can. And you know, maybe only the people that seemingly know you or agree with you are the ones that approach you, but I certainly haven't had anyone advocate for the more expensive plan, because basically it's going to look the same at the door and it is going to be staffed the same. So I'm going to make, it may not make it.
Just a minute. I believe we passed the sheriff's plan 1 month ago. That's on the table.
I don't think we did.
Oh, yes, we did.
I don't think so.
I don't have a clue as what you're talking about.
I don't either.
We approved the sheriff's plan for $250,000.
No, we approved a budget for 250,000, and that.
At the presentation of his plan.
Wait, that was a guesstimate that we, was best put together by the security committee, the sheriff, Mr. Boykin and myself.
Right.
And we needed to put it in a budget in order to do this, but there was no, it wasn't directed to the
There's
sheriff's
no definition
plan.
of a plan presented.
When I'm just going to hit on this issue one more time. When the county attorney came to us, I don't know, was it a year ago, about security here? I know it's been going on and on and on. And I think I was probably the only one that voted down the weapons ban at that time. And the reason was, my reason I voted that down was because if you're not going to be able to have people at the door to make sure guns and stuff are not coming in here, I will not be a part of it. So my suggestion would be,
You're talking about the concealed weapons ban, so we understand.
yes, the weapons ban. I think most people out here are all aware of that. But if you guys choose to go to private security, and I say you guys, or whatever, you're just basically slapping the sheriff in the face, and you're not doing what you were supposed to do, which was protect these people. So that's the only comment I'll make about it.
I think I need to clarify, I am not considering private security.
Well, whatever you call it, Jackie.
Okay, but I'm not considering contracting out with a private firm.
I understand
That's
that.
not in my thought
I understand
process.
that.
And actually, Pat made the case
For it,
private
but-
security, but he said because of the group determination to stay with union personnel, that we'd go with a more expensive plan. Anyway, I'm gonna get this off dead center. I personally do not believe that we need court security. I've made that clear from day one. I've made it clear to all the members on the security committee. But I see it as an eventuality. I mean, it's gonna happen. So if it's gonna happen, I'm gonna vote for the least expensive plan. And Pat, you and I disagree. I think we're talking well over $50,000 in savings. I stand to be proven wrong, but until I'm proven wrong, you're gonna have to show me. So I'd make a motion. I hate to label it Jackie's plan, but I will. I make a motion that we pass Jackie's plan for courthouse security.
Is there a second?
I'm going to second
You have another comment, Pat?
Yes, just to go back to Mark's question, is that the security plan that was adopted. The folks thought that that was the work group's initiative is what was passed. And what brought this to a halt was that Sheriff Drew was going to work with Human Resources to put in place, moving forward with the acting deputy sergeant. And he was told I don't know why you decided not to, but he was told not to do it, he couldn't do it.
Yeah, well, I got a letter from the court saying it was a halt.
So that's where we're at this point.
That was a personnel matter. The sheriff wanted to hire a sergeant to replace a sergeant that was going to oversee this. Am I correct or not, Dave?
Oh, it's the same, nothing changed. I think it's, I've beat that horse long enough. I'm not gonna talk.
Yeah, and there's no, Dave talked about slapping the sheriff in the face. Well, Dave, you're just
Well,
way off.
then why
base.
did we have a committee that came up with a plan, and then all of a sudden,
Because the board makes the final decision on it.
I understand that the board
willing
makes
to
a
step up
decision,
and make
but
the
you
decision.
guys can't bring a plan 10 minutes before the meeting and make sure these guys are aware of it.
Dave, that plan was put out several weeks ago.
Woody, when
to
did
the
you get
board.
it?
Wait a minute.
Well, let's hold
When
on.
did you get it?
We
Dave?
could sit here and argue. I could say when I got it,
All right, when did
but
you
you're
get it?
still not hearing the point. You cannot do it to the people out here, and you cannot do it to the media and expect them to be okay with it. That's what I'm saying.
That's why we put it off a week.
Well, you kind of caused a
But you
big
had-
controversy last week, didn't you?
Well, you had that information.
I understand
2
I
weeks
had
ago.
the information. What's that got to do with you
Well,
bringing it
let's-
up last
gentlemen,
week?
Let's start the back and forth.
No, we're not
Pat,
off
have
topic.
you finished your comments, please?
Before you, I have Mr. Butler's comparison of his plan.
I know that.
And that's what's up there right now. The bottom line is, you folks have just said that it's cheaper. It's not. And the taxpayer doesn't save a penny. It's $250,000 on this side.
That
It's
is-
$250,000.
No.
That is the budgeted figure.
Figure.
Because it's budgeted, Pat, and you've been around long enough and you are an auditor, you don't have to spend that entire budget.
But you spend it under Plan A, right up there, Dennis Butler's numbers, you spend $250,000.
Well-
You add the training costs there.
All right? Now, you want to get into this?
And we don't want to get into it because I think we're getting into particulars that we don't know anything
You
about,
said
either
it's
side.
cheaper. And you told me you remain to be convinced, your comparison.
You got on the sheriff's plan, excuse me, Sheriff, you can interject anytime you want, total other cost $44,500.
I don't have.
Under the other plan, you have total other cost of $115,000. You have that much extra to spend. Now, that comes up to $70,000 in my simple math.
And that's what you told me on Wednesday. But the thing is $70,000. You're missing the point. You both spend it. $250,000 is budgeted. You both spend $250,000.
We could and we could not. I mean, there's still a possibility that
That's
all
your
that money.
comparison. That's
Well, I
your-
know that we budgeted that, Pat. Anything else?
And in your statement.
I don't think that we're going to get anywhere on arguing.
No, I don't either, because you're,
I take the figures of our
Not,
financial person.
I'm not what?
it's black and white right here.
I think,
Black and white.
all right, that's it, all right?
Discussion
Mr.
and
Marshall, one more
decision.
comment, and we're going to vote on this.
Yeah, Jim Marshall.
Jim?
I don't know how you can vote on something when you're sitting there telling us, and we're taxpayers out here, that you don't have all the answers, you don't have all the numbers, you don't know what the training costs are, but you're gonna vote on a plan and you're gonna implement it. I don't understand. It just, I'm not a rocket scientist.
Well, we
But
do
what
have,
you're saying does not make sense.
Well, Mr. Marshall, I mean, neither plan have all the answers. Until we decide on which
His
plan,
laid out all
I don't
the
think
numbers.
so. I don't think so. When we get into a plan, then we will know what those answers are. Once we start to hire individuals, either on either plan or not, we will know what those exact figures are when we send out bids for cameras. We will know what those exact figures are when we send out to redo the front doors and put a lift in there. They are estimates as far as those costs are concerned. We don't know, based on our plan, what the training cost will be. We might not have to pay anything for the training cost, but we'll do it. We'll do it. But that is the reality of things.
Well, I don't see it. I don't see it that way.
Well, I understand
Not at
that.
all.
I understand
And
that.
I hope the taxpayers of Woodbury County are watching this fiasco that's going on.
Well, I hope they are too.
Because
I do too.
they will tell who's right at the ballot box.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna call a question
Well,
on the plan.
Excuse me.
You have one more comment?
Yeah, I think we're creating an apple dumpling gang here, but I'm gonna vote for it primarily to get a damn security plan going, because we screwed around for 20 years with this. It ain't gonna work the way it's written. We all know that. So it's gonna have to be fixed. And why we're jumping away from the sheriff is really puzzling to me. That's all I
Well,
got.
it's a situation where I think we have.
Same for you, George.
Well,
You
I
keep
know.
talking over it.
I know. I have confidence in the sheriff. I have confidence in this board. And I think that we can do either one. I really do believe that. I'm not going to slight either one of the other parties. The people have put us in office to do their work. Now, if they don't think, you're right, Mr. Marshall, if they don't think that, if they don't think that we're doing our work, then they will replace us. That's fine. I'm going to call the question. Those in favor of the motion indicate by saying
Roll call,
aye.
please.
Roll call vote?
Nay.
Munson,
Yay.
Boykin,
Yes.
Clausen,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Okay, it's done. We will work to get this implemented. Now, hearing of any individual wishing to make a presentation on an item not on the agenda?
Just one last comment. I think you have wonderful talking points, Mr. Boykin and Ms. Smith, but it's obvious. You wanted to go another way because it's personality. Thank you.
Dave, I certainly hope you're wrong.
No, you're wrong. It's not personality.
Larry, you're the biggest problem.
Oh, boy.
I can live with that.
Oh, boy. If there's no other items, I'd move we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.